Friday afternoons were always predictable. At least they used to be. The lobby of my accounting firm in Raleigh, North Carolina smelled like fresh coffee and printer toner. Clients hurried in and out before the weekend. My receptionist was already talking about her son's Little League game, and I was finishing payroll reports for a family-owned construction company I'd worked with for nearly 12 years. Nothing about that afternoon suggested my life was about to split into two versions, the one before the envelope and the one after it. My name is Rachel Morgan. I'm 49 years old. I've been a certified public accountant for over 20 years. Numbers don't scare me. Audits don't scare me. The IRS certainly doesn't scare me. People lie. Numbers usually don't. That's why what happened next still keeps me awake some nights. At exactly 4:36 p.m., my receptionist knocked softly on my office door. "Rachel?" "A gentleman asked me to give you this." She handed me a large manila envelope. No return address, only my name, printed, neatly. I thanked her, assuming it was another client file. Instead, it was a petition for divorce. 27 years of marriage, reduced to 43 pages of legal language. I stared at the signature on the last page. Daniel Morgan, my husband, the man I'd met when I was 21 years old, the man who used to drive 45 minutes just to bring me soup whenever I caught the flu during college finals, the man who danced barefoot with me in our kitchen every anniversary because he always claimed expensive restaurants couldn't compete with homemade lasagna. Now, he wanted out. No conversation, no warning, no counseling, just paperwork. The first sentence I read wasn't even emotional. Irreconcilable differences. Funny how cold legal words can erase nearly 3 decades of memories. I didn't cry, not immediately. Instead, I looked at my calendar. Dinner reservations, Saturday breakfast with our daughter Emma, Sunday church. Normal plans. Plans made by two people who were supposedly ending their marriage. How long had Daniel known? Weeks? Months? I folded the papers carefully, placed them back inside the envelope, finished my workday because sometimes when your world collapses, routine is the only thing keeping you standing. Daniel was already home when I walked through the front door. He was sitting on our back patio, watching the sunset. The same place we'd spent hundreds of evenings talking about retirement, grandchildren, vacations we'd finally have time to take. He looked up. "You got the papers." Not, "How are you?" Not, "I'm sorry." Just, "You got the papers." I nodded. "When?" "What?" "When did you decide our marriage was over?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "It wasn't one moment. It just happened. People always say that. It just happened. As if marriages dissolve the way ice melts in a glass, slowly, naturally, without anyone choosing to walk away." I sat across from him. Was there someone else? He answered too quickly. No. Too fast. Too rehearsed. Too clean. After 27 years, you notice hesitation. You notice breathing. You notice the tiny lies people think are invisible. "I don't believe you." He sighed. "Rachel, I don't want to fight." Neither did I, but I wanted the truth. Instead, he stood up. "I'll be staying at the townhouse for a while." Townhouse? What townhouse? The silence that followed told me everything. He'd already rented another place, maybe bought one. He'd planned every detail, long before I ever opened that envelope. He grabbed an overnight bag waiting by the door. It hadn't been packed in a hurry. Everything was neatly folded: phone chargers, medication, running shoes, toothbrush. Someone planning to leave overnight doesn't organize luggage like that. Someone planning for months does. Before walking out, he stopped. "I'm sorry." Then he left. The screen door clicked shut. And just like that, 27 years ended with 2 words. Saturday morning felt unreal. Emma still came over for breakfast. I couldn't tell her, not yet. She spent an hour talking about work, about her husband, about possibly buying a bigger house before starting a family. I smiled, poured coffee, pretended everything was fine. Sometimes protecting your children means carrying the pain one more day. After she left, the house became painfully quiet. That's when I noticed Daniel's home office. Empty. The filing cabinet, gone. His desktop computer, gone. Several shelves, empty. He hadn't packed an overnight bag. He'd been quietly moving pieces of his life, one box at a time, for weeks, maybe longer. I walked into our bedroom. Half the closet was empty. His passport, missing. His golf clubs, gone. Even the framed photograph from our honeymoon in Charleston had disappeared. Not mine, only his copy. It felt less like abandonment and more like someone carefully erasing evidence they'd ever lived there. That evening, I poured myself a glass of iced tea and opened our online banking app. Not because I suspected anything, because I wanted to understand what my future looked like. That's when something caught my attention. Several savings accounts I'd always recognized were gone. Not empty. Gone. Closed. I refreshed the page. Again. Still missing. My heartbeat quickened. I opened our investment portal. 2 retirement accounts remained. 1 brokerage account had disappeared. I checked transaction history. Nothing. No closure notice. No transfer confirmation. Just gone. I called customer service immediately. The representative verified my identity, then paused. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Morgan. I can only discuss accounts currently registered under your profile." "What does that mean?" "Those accounts are no longer jointly owned." "When were they changed?" "I'm afraid you'll need to visit a branch with identification." I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the wall for nearly 10 minutes. Daniel hadn't only planned a divorce, he'd reorganized our financial life, without telling me, without one conversation, without one signature from me, at least none I remembered. As a CPA, something felt very wrong. Not emotionally, legally. I didn't sleep much that night. Monday morning arrived gray and rainy. I drove straight to our bank before work. The branch manager knew me well. His name was Michael. We'd worked together on several business accounts over the years. When he saw me, his expression changed immediately. "Mrs. Morgan, I was actually hoping you'd come in." That wasn't what I expected to hear. He invited me into his office, closed the door, then lowered his voice. "I can't discuss an active compliance investigation in detail, but I believe you should know something." My pulse quickened. "What investigation?" He looked directly into my eyes. "Early this morning, our fraud and compliance department placed an emergency freeze on several accounts connected to your husband." For a second, I honestly thought I'd misheard him. "I'm sorry, what?" "They're frozen pending review. Every account, every transfer, every withdrawal. Daniel's carefully planned new life had just come to a complete stop, and neither of us yet knew why. I looked at Michael, waiting for him to smile, to tell me this was some ridiculous misunderstanding. He didn't. Instead, he slid a glass of water across his desk. "Mrs. Morgan, are you okay?" I wasn't. But after 23 years of reviewing financial statements, I'd learned something valuable. Panic never improves the numbers. "What exactly was frozen?" I asked. Michael folded his hands. "I can't discuss accounts that aren't legally under your control." That sentence hit harder than I expected. "They aren't under my control anymore?" He hesitated. "There were ownership changes several months ago." "Several months?" "Not days, not weeks, months." I stared at him. "How?" Michael looked genuinely uncomfortable. "I really can't answer that. What I can tell you is that our compliance department received an automated alert around 6:40 this morning. Several large transfers triggered federal reporting requirements." The room suddenly felt much smaller. "What kind of transfers?" "I don't know. And even if I did, I couldn't legally tell you." He handed me a business card. "Our compliance department may contact you. If they do, answer every question honestly." That last sentence stayed with me all day. I drove to my office in complete silence. Normally, I listened to country music during my morning commute. That day, nothing. My phone buzzed 3 times. Emma, my sister, a client. I ignored them all. When I reached my office, I closed my door, locked it, then opened my laptop. If Daniel had been moving money, there would be footprints. Maybe not obvious ones, but money always leaves footprints. I started with our tax returns, then mortgage records, property tax filings, retirement contributions. Everything looked perfectly normal, until I opened last year's return. One line caught my attention: a business deduction. Morgan Consulting Holdings, LLC. I frowned. We didn't own an LLC. At least, not one I'd ever created. I searched our state business registry. There it was. Morgan Consulting Holdings, LLC. Registered 16 months earlier. Managing member, Daniel Morgan. My name was nowhere. I leaned back in my chair. 27 years together, and he'd started an entire company without telling me. Why? That afternoon, I called our longtime family attorney, not for divorce advice, for one simple question. Can one spouse hide an LLC during a marriage? He answered carefully. It depends. On what? Whose money funded it? That answer made my stomach twist. If Daniel used marital income, things could become very complicated, very quickly. Before hanging up, my attorney asked one question. "Rachel, has your husband ever handled your electronic signatures?" I froze. "What do you mean?" "Mortgage refinances, retirement paperwork, investment forms." I thought back. Daniel usually handled online documents. He'd always say, "You're buried in tax season. I'll take care of this." I trusted him completely. Until now. Tuesday morning, an unfamiliar number appeared on my phone. "This is Rachel." A calm female voice answered. "Mrs. Morgan, my name is Lisa Hernandez. I'm with the Financial Crimes Compliance Division at First National Bank." My heartbeat quickened. "We'd like to schedule a meeting." "What about?" "I'm afraid I can't discuss details over the phone, but your name appeared in documents connected to several recent transactions." "My name?" "Yes." I nearly dropped the phone. I didn't transfer anything. We're aware of that. Those 4 words sent a chill through my body. We simply need clarification. The meeting was scheduled for Wednesday morning. After hanging up, I realized something terrifying. Someone had been using my name without me knowing. Daniel finally called Tuesday night, for the first time since leaving. I heard you went to the bank. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I asked a different question. When were you planning to tell me about Morgan Consulting Holdings? Silence. Long enough to tell me everything. Rachel, it's complicated. No, it isn't. You either created it behind my back, or you didn't. His breathing changed. You've been talking to lawyers. I've been reading public records. Another long silence. Then, you should stay out of this. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was unbelievable. Our entire marriage, you asked me to trust you, and now you're telling me to stay out of my own finances? His voice became sharper. You don't understand what's happening. Then explain it. I can't. Why? Another pause. Finally, because it isn't just about the divorce. The line went dead. He hung up. I stared at the phone. What did that even mean? Not just about the divorce? What else could there possibly be? Wednesday morning arrived faster than I wanted. The compliance office wasn't inside the bank branch. It occupied an anonymous office building downtown. No bank logo, no customers, just security doors, conference rooms, and people who spoke quietly. Lisa Hernandez greeted me with a polite smile. She wasn't intimidating. She looked more like a college professor than someone investigating financial crimes. After verifying my identification, she placed 3 documents in front of me. Mrs. Morgan, can you tell me whether these signatures belong to you? I looked down. The first signature looked almost perfect. So did the second. So did the third. Then I noticed something tiny. The capital R. Mine always curved slightly upward. These didn't. I looked back at Lisa. I didn't sign these. She nodded slowly. We believed you might say that. Then she opened another folder. What I saw inside made my blood run cold, because the documents weren't authorizing transfers, they were authorizing loans, millions of dollars of loans, using assets I didn't even know existed, and every single page carried my forged signature. For a few seconds, I couldn't hear anything. The conference room disappeared, the rain tapping against the windows disappeared. All I could see were those signatures. My name, written over and over again on documents I had never seen. I looked at Lisa. I didn't sign any of these. She nodded. We believe you. That wasn't the response I expected. She slid another document across the table. This signature was verified against documents you signed in person at one of our branches last year. The difference was obvious now. Tiny, but obvious. Whoever copied my signature knew what it looked like. They just didn't know how I naturally lifted my pen at the end of the L. It was something I'd never noticed about myself. Apparently, their forensic document examiner had. Lisa folded her hands. Mrs. Morgan, we're treating you as a potential victim, not a suspect, a victim. For the first time in days, I felt like someone finally believed me. The next 48 hours moved faster than I thought possible. My attorney immediately filed motions to preserve every marital asset. The divorce case suddenly became secondary. Now there was another issue: potential financial fraud. By Friday morning, Daniel's attorney requested an emergency postponement of our first divorce hearing. My lawyer smiled when she read the email. "They're scared." "Why?" "Because whatever your husband planned, it's falling apart." That afternoon, Emma called. Her voice was shaking. "Mom, can I come over?" She arrived 20 minutes later, without her husband, without makeup, without pretending everything was okay. She hugged me tighter than she had since she was a little girl. Then she whispered something that broke my heart. "Dad asked me to lie." I closed my eyes. "What about?" "He wanted me to tell people he'd moved out months ago because you both agreed to separate." I slowly pulled away. "And what did you tell him?" I told him no. Tears filled her eyes. "I love both of you, but I'm not lying." I wrapped my arms around her again. In that moment, I realized something. Daniel wasn't just trying to rewrite our marriage, he was trying to rewrite history. Monday morning, the bank's legal department released additional records: 3 shell companies, 2 business loans, 1 investment property, nearly $2 million in transactions, every one of them connected, every one of them hidden. My attorney looked across her desk. "Rachel, I have to ask you something difficult." I nodded. "Go ahead." "Did Daniel ever ask you to sign blank documents?" I thought back. Tax season, refinancing, insurance renewals. There had been times. Not often, but enough. He'd always say, "I'll fill in the details later." I trusted him, because that's what spouses do. My attorney sighed. "He may have started with legitimate signatures and built from there." 3 weeks later, the first real court hearing finally arrived. Daniel looked exhausted. His expensive suits had been replaced with something off the rack. He'd lost weight. He refused to look at me. The judge reviewed the financial reports, then looked directly at Daniel. "Mr. Morgan, were these companies disclosed during your initial divorce filing?" "No, Your Honor." "Why not?" Daniel swallowed hard. "I didn't believe they were marital assets." The judge raised one eyebrow. "They were funded with marital income." Silence. His attorney leaned over and whispered something. The judge noticed. "No, I'd like to hear Mr. Morgan answer." Daniel finally looked up. "I made a mistake." The judge closed the file. "No, a mistake is forgetting a document. This appears to be something considerably different." The courtroom became perfectly silent. During a recess, someone quietly approached me. It wasn't Daniel. It was his younger brother, Michael, a man I'd known since he was 16. He looked embarrassed. "I owe you an apology." "You don't owe me anything." He shook his head. "I knew Danny started another business. I didn't know. He was hiding everything from you." He handed me a small flash drive. "I found this while helping him clean out his office. I think you should have it." "What is it?" "I don't know, but after everything that's happened, I figured it belonged to you." That night, my attorney and I opened the files. There were spreadsheets, emails, property records. Then, one folder simply labeled Future. Inside were scanned copies of apartment contracts, vacation reservations, furniture purchases, and one document that made my attorney stop talking altogether: an engagement ring receipt, purchased 8 months earlier. 8 months, long before I ever received divorce papers, long before Daniel claimed it just happened. He hadn't fallen out of love overnight. He'd been building another life while eating dinner across from me every evening. The betrayal hurt me, but strangely, it no longer destroyed me. Because once the truth is finally sitting in front of you, you stop blaming yourself for someone else's choices. 2 months later, federal investigators completed their review. No criminal charges were filed against me. Every forged signature was officially removed from responsibility. The fraudulent loans became Daniel's burden alone. The shell companies collapsed. The hidden accounts remained frozen until the divorce concluded. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. Our final divorce hearing lasted less than 3 hours. The judge spoke calmly. Marriage is built on trust. Financial disclosure is built on honesty. This case had neither. Because Daniel intentionally concealed assets, misrepresented financial information, and attempted to shift liability using forged documents, the court awarded me a significantly larger share of the marital estate. The family home, half the retirement accounts, compensation for legal fees, and damages related to the fraudulent financial activity. Daniel didn't argue. He couldn't. The documents spoke louder than either of us. 6 months later, Emma invited me to Sunday dinner. As we sat on her back porch watching my grandson chase fireflies across the yard, she smiled. "You know what Grandpa taught me?" I laughed. "What?" She pointed toward my grandson. He said, "Character isn't measured by what people do when life is easy. It's measured by what they refuse to become when life gets ugly." I looked toward the sunset. For a long time, I believed losing my marriage meant losing my future. I couldn't have been more wrong. Sometimes, life doesn't fall apart. It clears away the people who were quietly taking pieces of it. Daniel filed for divorce on a Friday. By Monday morning, the bank froze every account he'd hidden. At the time, it felt like the worst week of my life. Looking back now, it was the week I finally stopped living someone else's version of the truth and started building my own. The end.